One Take Wine. We're back on a beautiful Friday afternoon. Very nice and warm out, very spring-like, 12 degrees even. That's good for Sweden. At the beginning of April, that's really great. Anyway, thought I'd share a little bit of what I'm doing today. And a little earlier I opened a wine I'm going to review in a separate post because I don't have any more of it. It's gone already. My better half really liked it, which is 2017 Chateau Chambol-Musigny, just the village. I have had, not today, but recently, yesterday, the day before, a 2016 Vie Saint-Georges Le Damode from Domaine Favely. And that I'm going to review separately as well, because that definitely deserves its own review. But we're here today because of this particular little puppy. Chateau de Tours, Côte de Rhône, the Grande Reserve. You can see that on the label, right? The Grande Reserve, I think, is declassified Vaqueras grapes. At that time, he wasn't allowed to. I can't remember the story, but for some reason, he couldn't call it Vaqueras, or he couldn't make it what he wanted. He couldn't call it what he wanted to call it. I could be making that up. I probably just read that somewhere on some random blog. But that's my understanding. In any case, this is Reynaud, so it's a Rayas producer, and it wasn't that long ago I could still afford the white Rayas. Couldn't afford the reds because the reds have exploded in the last 5 years. So there's no more red Rayas in my life. It's sad, but at the same time, I think people are paying way too much money for those wines. Some of them are visionary, life-changing, and then others are, so what? And when you get a so what wine and you've paid, 10,000 kroners, 1,500 bucks, whatever, you're not going to be happy. So, it's not worth it. I mean, I'm not too sure they were ever worth that kind of money, although I think they are singularly some of the best wines on the planet. I really do. I think they're one of a kind, Chardonnay du Pape. And with the white one, I particularly love the white one because at one point here at Systembolaget in Sweden, way back when, they released it in 2004 here, and it just sat on the shelves and nobody was buying it. And so I was just popping these things, right? I was just buying them and popping them, 400 kroners a bottle. And that was 2004 vintage. And since then, I've, because the 2004 was so good, I've just bought every vintage of it I can find. The Drink Rome guy there, Stephen Leavenworth, or whatever his name is, was, quite a good writer and an interesting sort of describer of wine. He made the 2006 a 6-star wine of the Chateau Rayas White. And, so I've bought that multiple times when the prices were okay, and it is. I mean, these are really moving wines. I'm not sure, was that much better than the 04? I'm not a super expert maybe like him, but, in my opinion, the whites from Chateau Rayas are super, super compelling. Almost in a way, a little more compelling. They're at least more regular than the reds. The chances of being disappointed are less, unless you really don't like white wines. Which is the roundabout way of getting to this side of the story, which is the 03 Chateau de Tours. So now I'm looking at the same producer, but I'm going way down his list. And I thought, but am I really going way down his list with this Grande Reserve and, and this Côte de Rhône and, his other properties somewhere else in the Rhône? And apparently he takes the same sort of approach to the wines. And, good producers don't make bad wines. Doesn't matter where they come from. They make good wines. So 03 was a terrible year for white in general in France, or at least it was a misunderstood year for both white and red, I would say, because of the heat wave. It was a heat wave year. So there's a lot of burnt grapes and a lot of vignerons who lost. But I've always said all along If you made a great 03, if you made an 03, if your 03 is still alive, if you've made a good 03, it's going to be great for a long. It's going to be one for the ages. It will outshine many other great vintages. 2010, for instance, 2005, if you want to take it from the same era. There's this kind of, I think, real misunderstanding about 03. There's a lot of great 03s, a lot of great, really fantastic 03s, even in white. And so that's why we're drinking the Chateau de Tours, the Côte du Rhône, the the Grande Reserve, sorry, it's not Vieille Vigne, Grande Reserve, from Reynaud, right? 14% alcohol. Here's the color, so you can see we're starting to get a little golden. But boy, oh boy, we're talking about honey now on the nose, right? Honey and a little pear, peach, very peachy. Honey and peaches. Ooh, soft beeswax. The nose is super compelling, and it's been open for about a half an hour now, and it's getting softer and more complex, I think, with time, because the honey is picking up spicy notes, and that sort of beeswax and peach combination is kind of developing. So I wonder if it's even beeswax or just wax. It's got this, and it reminds me so much of the White Reynaud. It just does. I'm sorry. I'm not sure I don't know what grape it is. Roussanne, or probably not. It's probably some white Grenache, and I don't know. It's maybe a little harsher in the mouth, a little more rustic, you could say, on the palate. And by that I mean just the tannins aren't as polished as they are with the White Reynaud, where that is very smooth and it's like massaging your tongue a little, seducing you with every sip. This is on the nose is definitely doing that, but at the same time there's something herbal and very savory on the finish, licorice-like, obviously not sweet licorice, otherwise it wouldn't be savory, but very flavorful and mouth-watering in the sides. Like I said, the tannins could use a tiny bit more polish, and the length could be a little bit more drawn out, I would say. But other than that, you get a ringer here for white Chateau Reynaud at less than a quarter of the cost, I would say, a fifth of the cost, and it's 03. That's what I love about this. It just goes to show, nobody will take a stand on a vintage like this. Nobody's going to overpay for it. Nobody's going to try and go the extra mile in terms of their bids at auction. So if you know, and the only way you can know is to actually drink some. So, and the only way you can know through drinking some is to be disappointed by enough of them. So you've drank enough that have burned you, so you won't do it again. You won't pay the money again. But every once in a while, you kind of go, wait, it says in the ratings that this shouldn't be the way it is, and yet I've had this bottle twice now, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's ringing my bell in every which way. And then, then you have the inside track on other tasters, because if you just rely on what is written about wines, I can tell you that's going to get you nowhere. All you're going to do is pay too much for wine all the time, in my opinion. That's what I feel, and that's why I don't do it. I often buy wines that have been downgraded by some of the most popular tasters, and then I drink them, and I make up my own mind. And often I wouldn't say often, but I would say I'm consistently rewarded. I would never do it any other way. I would never just I read the notes to get some indication of whether I should or shouldn't. Sometimes if it's a particularly expensive bottle or a volatile type of vintage that could be real hit or miss type thing, I want to know everything. I want to know everybody's kind of thoughts on it. I still might just buy the bottle even if everybody went super negative on it. And especially if Parker's negative on it, I generally just ignore that. And especially with Burgundy, because he was kind of a pointless Burgundy taster in those days. I mean, he did, yeah, whole other story. But yeah, I'm not gonna rely on that. Otherwise, we would never drink. What? There's so many wines that you would have missed out on. I could list hundreds. I'm sure of it. Anyway, I'm not here to rag on him because I truly believe he was one of the great contributors to the wine world. I mean, everything he did for Bordeaux is there's no taking that away. That's for sure. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, much better taster than I'll ever hope to be. Beautiful golden color. The peach and the honeycomb just keeps multiplying. You can tell I keep coming back to this and wanting to talk about it some more because there's not even an oxidative note to this, even though like you would look at the color and you might think, ooh, but there's no oxidative notes. It's just honey. Honey, very dry, very savory. Nothing to even suggest. I mean, I would never go 3 in a blind. Blind, I would just say no. I don't. It doesn't strike me as a warm vintage. It is a little rustic. I'll give you that. But I would say that that's a very, very small price to pay for, the way a good Southern Rhone should be. Okay, that's it for this one. I'm going to be having some more wines this weekend. I'll either get back to the ones that I talked about earlier. Probably not. That might happen next time I pop them, and I'm probably not going to pop them because I just popped them. But whenever I do open, I will be sure to share it with you. Thanks. Stay thirsty. See you next time.